That's me. Can you read? Good luck. I'm here to talk about startups, some of the stuff I've learnt in Europe, and some of the stuff I've learned from experiencing startups in Silicon Valley. And I'm going to hopefully try and educate you guys a little bit, give you some ideas, and make some connections, okay? So that's me. Have fun. At Mike Butcher, you bastard, you never replied to my email. Okay. Let's get this over with. I don't really know a lot about you, but this is what I do know. You got a lot of this. And you say things like this. What is this? Electricity? I don't know. People seem to talk about electricity all the time here. I'm not sure why. I'm familiar with this, very familiar, but I mean, you guys are really obsessed with cricket. I mean, how's that? You say, how's it all the time? It's like you're sort of on the playing field. So it's unusual. Vibration. I think you're obviously very spiritual people, right? Feel the vibration. This. What are you all, detectives? Whodunit? It's a new one on me. I have no idea what this means, by the way. Which is lucky anyway. I'm not very good at this. So that's the cultural stuff over. Let's do some learning. This happens a lot. Why haven't we all got Silicon Valleys in our backyard? We all want them. We hear about it all the time. You read about it on TechCrunch. We're just like, oh, we're just teasing you guys. It's so annoying, isn't it? You're very lazy. Why have you not created it already? Huh? I don't know. Crazy. Maybe we're asking the wrong question. Maybe we need to come up with some new kinds of approaches to this. We need another way. You can't just reproduce what's happened in the past. You can't reproduce 50 years of development of the Manhattan Project, developing the atomic weapon in California during the Second World War. You can't reproduce the emergence of Fairchild Semiconductor in Silicon Valley during the 1950s. You can't just go back in time and reproduce it and make it happen here in Cape Town like a time machine. Although I do hear that 88 miles per hour accelerator here is something to do with Back to the Future. There's something else going on. I'm going to give you a little bit of an insight into my experience being outside the valley but still reporting for TechCrunch. Here's a big market. You're familiar with this one. Big, homogeneous, they all speak the same language, the plugs work the same, the electricity voltage is the same. It's 350 million people, and it's a one big, fat, juicy market. And it's quite good at the internet. But we're in a bit of a mess here in Europe. We have many, many different countries. We're not very far away from you. We're only an hour away, apparently. Isn't that my jet lag? But it's very complicated. It's fragmented. And it reminds us of ourselves because we're living in fragmented marketplaces very often. Something came along, though, back in the day, a few years ago, to sort out this mess. Instead of having to have centralized servers, everything started to move towards the cloud. We're all familiar with this story. That's why we're here. And Web2Domain meant we didn't have to be organized. We can actually leverage the network effect to our own advantage. And in Europe, where I'm from, social media helped proliferate the network coming together. Zuckerberg turned up. There's Ryan Carson on the left there. He put together a whole bunch of events not dissimilar to you guys. Okay, so interestingly enough, this happened to us. And it's happening to you. The thinking matured. We got a fantastic number of new ideas Ironically, it was Mao that said, I think, let 1,000 flowers bloom. And here we are, an age of market economies and capitalism, and that's exactly what is happening. So it's an exciting time. And what do we get from this? Startups, masses and masses of innovation. Because it's all out there in the cloud. It's a distributed network effect. And this is what happened to us. We started to form our own ecosystem across Europe. It's almost like neurons firing across a brain and starting to make connections. And we got our own clusters. Okay, it's not Silicon Valley, but clustering was important because clustering is where randomness happens. You know, going for a coffee, bumping into somebody, realizing that you've got the same thing in common, realizing that maybe you can co-found something as a startup. That's important. Many of the times, the most important connections we form are in informal moments. I'd love to think that all of you here will make some connections. Maybe you checked somebody out while you were dancing and thought, oh, hello. That's an informal connection. But, you know, clustering is really important for innovation because it's in those in-between bits when all the magic starts to happen. We got around Silicon Roundabout, and it's like a virus, and it took off across the city here in London. But it wasn't just us. You know, we don't have a monopoly on this. Here's Berlin. Berlin, of course, is a very new city. It's old, obviously, in historical terms, but really it's brand new since the wall came down. And you've got this enormous amount of innovation happening. It's like a blank sheet of paper. It's kind of like the newest city in Europe. And exactly the same thing happens then. Clustering, all around Mitte, there in the middle, in the old East, but now effectively the central center of Berlin. Same in Paris, Silicon Sentier. Apologies for my ridiculous French accent. The same sort of clustering happening. And that's really important because when you get this cluster, not only do the startups start to happen, but you also get venture capitalists and investors realizing that if they want to get deal flow, they can go somewhere, they can find people. That's important. When people say to me in London, look, you know, people say to me in the UK, screw you guys down in London. You know, we've got some fantastic startups here in Birmingham. I think that's great. Build it in Birmingham, if you want to be in Birmingham. But the investors are not there. You want to come down, you want to talk to the investors, you're going to hit Barclay Square in Mayfair. That's where the investors are. Similar to the Valley, you have Sand Hill Road. We have West London, very expensive part of London. That's where the venture capitalists like to hang out and drink expensive coffee. And that's the clustering effect happening. In fact, we can graph this. Lots of coffee, lots of startups. And indeed, I was visiting this week an interesting place you have here in Cape Town called Woodstock, which is very interesting to me. And I love to see that kind of vibe starting to happen. Because when people walk, you know, when they're clustering, things start to happen. And they did. You've got to have some Wi-Fi, of course. But our startup season, here's a bit of a reality check. I think just because you exist doesn't mean things are going to happen. There's a filter mechanism happening out there, and you've got to be aware of it. There's always been a filter in Silicon Valley. You don't see it reported in the media. You're not, you know, you've got to read between the lines. Deals are done in the back rooms. Venture capitalists and investors talk to startups and filter each other. And there's a network effect going on. They don't, it doesn't just happen automatically just because you're there, because you get posted on TechCrunch. There's a whole lot of stuff happening underneath. It's always there. Here's a guy, not Jesus, called Ron Conway. Ron Conway is the head of Silicon Valley Angels. And to some extent, he is the man. He's the big filter. He sees everything. He does hundreds of deals a year, and he's a gatekeeper. And in fact, exactly the same thing has happened to us in Europe. No, it's not Donny Osmond. Sorry, Danny. Where you are on the live stream. Oh my God, I'm going to get sacked. Danny here is awesome. He's an amazing investor, Index Ventures. He took the Silicon Valley model of fast, iterative investing, put it to London, and started doing it in London, and obviously Skype, MySQL, many, many big companies have been backed as a result of this mindset. We also have these guys. These are the Filter guys. I think actually they have some connections with South Africa. Saul Klein on the left and Robin Klein on the right. Yes, they are related. Saul on the left created Seedcamp, and on the right, Robin was an early angel investor in the London scene. Deal flow, deal flow, deal flow, filter, 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 and that's how things start to happen. Exactly the same thing happens across Europe. Christoph Mayer in Berlin, Jeremy Berebi in France, Martin Varsavsky in Spain, and many others. These guys are filtering the startups. And that's something we've got to always remember. You can't just like appear with an amazing product. You have to talk to these guys. They're part of the ecosystem. And this is what's happened in London. We've had a flowering of interesting new venture capital funds. I'll be putting these up online later. Now, they've been joined by other investors, the new kids on the block. These guys are all much, much earlier stage seed investors. And they've been doing some very interesting things. They're taking that fast, iterative process and working with product, working with founders to create companies. And we've got accelerators now, proliferation of accelerators. I've never seen so many accelerators in our life. People say to me, come on, Mike, why... surely there's far too many accelerators. This is crazy. I say bring it on. We need more creative disruption. We need more failure. Without more failure, you don't get great companies because people don't learn anything. You need to learn. And there's lots and lots of ways to learn now. These are effectively like the universities. I'm probably going to run out of time. I'm sure I'm running out of time. Anyway, more co-working. Lovely. Iterative. It's a clustering effect all over Europe there. Fantastic stuff. Get out there, get the Wi-Fi happening, get the coffee happening, and do it. So what are the kinds of things that we are building next? You know, what are the platforms of the future? I don't know who this guy is, but he looks like a total arsehole. I mean, they call them glass holes, don't they? I don't think, personally, I'm not sure that this will go mainstream in its current form, but it's very interesting to see Google present this and come up with this. There's been a brand new venture fund formed by Andreessen Horowitz, a huge VC in Silicon Valley, to create apps and startups just for this platform, just for Google Glass. And whether it ends up being used by warehouse workers or production line people building cars or something, or whether it turns out to be, you know, the next smartphone, the next thing you see people walking down the street wearing, who knows? But it is a new platform. And when you see new platforms appear as startups and as entrepreneurs, very often getting on it early, you get part of that traction. You hitch your wagon to a meteor, or if that's the right analogy. You go with that growth. And that's very interesting. New platforms always create new growth. And I'm more of a fan, I think as we were hearing earlier, of things like this ambient device. Like Apple is rumored to be developing the iWatch. And it changes your behavior. When it's just there, suddenly you realize, I don't have to kind of, you know, bury my head in my smartphone. I can just see it, you know, see it happen as it happens, respond as it happens. And that will be a new platform. And there will be new startups that get big on this platform when it happens. And it will. Here's a company out of Finland doing amazing stuff, Supercell, incredibly successful gaming company. And really watch what they do because it's fantastic. They're coming out with incredible games. They're kind of like the new Rovio, the new Angry Birds, the generative of that. It's fascinating to see their traction and growth. And of course, the quantified self is an enormous new trend. Healthcare analytics, being able to measure your body, being able to check out your health, an enormous new opportunity. And as our populations grow older, these are the kinds of things that become very important. Getting on the platform early is important. So do you detect a theme here? It's going to be big. It is big. It is already big. Even though it's still obviously a growing market here in, hold Hold on a second. Stop. Even though it's early adoption of smartphones and other things like that is still an emerging market here in Africa and South Africa, it is obviously big. It's basically bypassing the PC. It's basically the next platform. So look and watch for that. Okay, right? It's all very well. What do we go next? How do we actually make this happen if we don't have a Silicon Valley in our back door? We've got a bit of a problem. We, here in Europe, we don't have a Silicon Valley in our back door either. So what are we going to do? We need markets at scale. We need an international platform. It's much easier to build in English because it is an international language. Sorry, Esperanto, you failed. Be great if it would be in our time zone. Thank you very much. So wonder where that could be. It's an hour from London. Got nice weather. Barcelona. Not very big. Have you tried speaking Catalan? It's not easy. An hour from London, an hour from London. Hello, South Africa. Hello, Africa. Where have you been? We're going to be joining with you. This is going to be something big for us. All of us together are in this. We don't have to create Silicon Valley in our backyards. We've got each other. We're stronger if we build our ecosystems together, if we link up. Come over, see us. We'll come and see you. Let's make it together. We're better together. Stop trying to build another Silicon Valley, okay? You don't need to do it. Create your own ecosystems and link them up. We can do it. We can build silicon bridges. Okay? Thank you, everyone.